Hey everybody, my name's Eddie McClintock, star of several canceled television shows. And if you stick around, you'll get to hear me talk about those canceled television shows with my good buddy Andrew Pope on Pickin' It Out.
Well, it's just another podcast. Gonna be picking it out. It's another podcast, y'all. Just gonna be picking it out. Yeah, we got Eddie McClintock in the house. Or in his house, rather. But we're still gonna be picking it out. And the guitar's out of tune a little bit. That's just fine. Well, hey, y'all. Appreciate y'all tuning in once again. I'm a poet and didn't know it. To Picking It Out. Always happy to jump on here and, have conversations with people, man, because I was talking about this the other day. It kind of feels like, man, that these days conversations are like more digital now and there's no interaction. I'm guilty of it, too. Gracie says hello again. Thank you, Gracie. But it's good to have conversations still, I think. And we're going to have a good one today with a guy that's kind of done it all. This guy's a great actor, been through a good bit in his life, like a lot of us have. He's been on all kinds of shows, movies, had spots in a lot of TV shows like Friends. You name it. I've got a list here, actually, because I couldn't even remember all the stuff. The show, The Mighty Ducks Game Changers on Disney Plus. I'm looking through recent stuff. Had a stint on MacGyver, the reboot. Bones. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, most of you know him from Warehouse 13, which was a great show, and wish it was on longer, actually. So we got Eddie McClintock here with us. How you doing, brother?
Andrew, I'm well, man. How are you today?
Doing good. Holding the fort down here in Alabama.
Yes, sir. You made me sound almost important there. I was even impressed myself with some of those credits.
Well, I kind of try to pass it on, these people give me these little introductions sometimes, and I'm like, who are you introducing? I ain't done nothing.
Yeah.
You've done a lot, though, really.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've been a stepping stone for some of the biggest names in Hollywood.
Hey.
The star of several canceled television shows.
Well, at least they were television shows.
Yeah, that's true. I should have been like the funniest ditch digger on the midnight shift back in Ohio. That was kind of where I was headed. So, I'm grateful for everything that I've been given in this life.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. It has been perfect and but no one's has, and I've learned that gratitude is better than resentment. So
absolutely. What part of Ohio are you from?
I'm from Northeast Ohio, so Canton, Ohio. North Canton to be specific, but I always say Canton because that's where the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Hoover vacuum cleaner.
Ah, the Hoover vacuum cleaner.
So I got that going for me. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, maybe you'll get a road at least named after
I know, man. I'm like, throw me a bone over here.
The Hoover vacuum cleaner. That man, Hoover used to be a big deal. I don't know. I guess it still is. I think Dyson's kind of the Mac Daddy now.
Yeah, the Hoover plant that's in the center of my hometown. It's non-functioning, just like everything else in this country now. So,
well, yeah, probably
you can buy your vacuum from China,
just like your socks.
Yep,
and everything.
Everything.
You know, this little town here that I'm from. It's in northeast Alabama, and it's close to Fort Payne. Fort Payne used to be the sock capital of the world. And in the 90s, all that stuff, just like everything else, went over to China.
Right.
So there goes all those, sock mill jobs.
Yeah.
But everything's like that, When did you leave Ohio?
I somehow graduated from high school and then somehow graduated from college in 91 down in Dayton, Ohio, and then moved to Los Angeles to sell corporate insurance for my uncle in 1991.
How'd that work out?
He fired me after 6 months.
What, do you have a pretty secretary that you was talking to or something?
No, I mean, I grew up playing football and wrestling back in Ohio. I went to college to basically wrestle. The sports was really the only thing that was keeping me out of trouble. So I tried to extend my athletic career as far as I could. And, I was pretty wild, and I tried to convince myself that I could be a corporate insurance salesman in Los Angeles because I wanted to come to LA. I didn't know why I wanted to come to LA. I knew I wanted to be in Los Angeles. And so I said, I'm going to be an insurance salesman. And I was taking a lot of acid then and drinking a lot. And, I could only maintain the facade for so long. I would come out to visit when I was earlier in life. And so, I grew up at a country club back in Ohio. So when I came out here, I knew how to play the game for my uncle. And he bought into it. And so, but after a few months, it's kind of like living with someone, they're your best friend until you move in with them. And then you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So eventually the veneer of togetherness that I had, it all came crashing down, and he had every right to fire me. So I was pretty bad.
Well, I feel like when you're young and around that time in life is, I don't know if I'd say you kind of get a pass, maybe not, but just, I feel like everybody needs to kind of get that out of their system when they're young. And then if you have a problem with it later on, I think you can make, the choice is yours to make, whether you carry that on or, kind of get your priorities in line. And As far as myself, I don't have an addictive personality, but it runs somewhat in my family. Actually just lost mama last year, at an early age in her 50s
I'm sorry.
because of cirrhosis, because she just couldn't put it down.
Uh-huh.
But take me on the other hand, I kind of had my wild phase in my 20s, and then I hardly ever even drink a beer anymore. So I don't know. I feel like it's good for younger people, if they're going to be interested or curious, to kind of get that out of their system early, But then if it turns into a problem, I think that's whole different story there. That make any sense?
Do you think, oh, of course. Do you think seeing what your mom went through had anything to do with you just kind of walking away from all of it?
Yeah, it did. I think it did, and she hadn't always been like that. It just happened. She started drinking probably around 2000 or 2001, something like that. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And she wasn't happy. She was miserable, pretty much, and kind of went back to her childhood days, I think. That kind of thing. But then she quit for a few years, got a nice job that she felt needed at. It got to be too much, and then she started back and didn't stop. And I was, let's see, I guess I was 16 or 17 when she really started, and get it out of hand. And I kind of was the responsible, like, I try to get her to talk to me about stuff. She wouldn't, but I would try to get her to, at a young age. Like, I was kind of, I was mature at a young age in some ways like that. So I think it did have a lot to do with me just, it never being a problem, in my life. But, it's one of them things, man. It's like so many in this industry, whether, you're doing the acting thing, you're doing singing, sports, man, it's so easy.
Yeah.
To do whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of, and it, I think that it also, there's a lot of it because, as you said, you can do whatever you want, right? I mean, especially if you've had some success and you've got money and people are admiring you. And then the same can be said for those who are not having the success. Exactly. It opens up that door as well, because there's insecurity and you're being said no to far more times than you're being said yes to, and
oh yeah,
it's impossible not to internalize it. And so in order to deal with the internalization of those rejections, a lot of people go that way as well. So it's on both sides. It's especially for somebody then who is already predisposed to, addictive personality. So I had it coming from all sides.
Yeah.
I had it coming from all sides. I had a great time for a long time, drinking and smoking weed and partying with my buddies and, being the guy that could do the most of this or do them, especially I got a lot of clout with my wrestling buddies, in college because I was, like the last guy standing a lot of the time. So I got a lot of my self-esteem from that, man. But then when you transition into the real world, it doesn't really serve you. It didn't, at least it didn't for me.
Yeah.
And, once I got fired by my uncle and decided that I was going to, once I started taking acting classes and decided that I was going to try something else. I didn't want to go back to Ohio as a failure. And I realized that I needed to, turn it around. So,
Yeah. Well, thank God you did.
yeah.
Now
Yeah. I got a wife and 2 kids, 3 dogs, a Senegal parrot, a cat, a gerbil. I
there
mean,
you go.
I'm living the dream, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you say you're talking about college. You went to Ohio State, right?
Well, I went to Wright State University, which is in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
I don't know if I could have gotten into Ohio State. My grades were not good enough, and I definitely couldn't have wrestled for Ohio State. But I got recruited to come down to Wright State to wrestle, and I had a couple buddies down there already that were on the wrestling team. So, I mean,
yeah,
it was, I think my dad was just praying, like, man, please help this kid. Please let this kid find his way, please help him to find his way.
yeah.
And, I can say this, that when my dad passed, he passed in March.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was a rough one. When he passed, he was proud of me. So
That's everything.
That's all. I mean, it is everything. And I since then I've done a lot of soul searching about what is important to me in this life.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was younger, I wanted to be. I was like, I became an actor because I wanted to be successful. And I grew up, the way I grew up was I want to be the best at what I do. I didn't want to be famous. I just wanted to be the best. And being, if a byproduct of being the best was being famous, then so be it. But, so I took it very seriously, and my dad recognized that, and he also was really proud of the fact that I was able to get sober and stay sober. I'll be 22 years sober if everything goes well as planned, January 1st.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment right there.
Thanks.
God. Yeah.
Met my wife
track.
in an AA meeting.
Oh, really?
She got a year more than I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
So y'all kind of keep each other sober. Probably.
Yeah. I mean, she's the probably, she's the more, she's much smarter than I am. And, she's got her finger on the spiritual pulse a little more than I do. So she keeps me grounded. I tend to spin out. And, so she's, and my birthday was yesterday. And so.
Oh, happy late birthday.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. We went to see, the new Top Gun, and, I was just sitting there looking at her during the movie, and I was like, I'm watching this movie because it's a nostalgic thing. Top Gun came out pretty much like right around when I went away to college. And so there was a lot of nostalgia there, and seeing this and then looking at my new life. And I just thought, there's no one else that I would want to grow old with than this woman sitting right next to me. So there's a lot of comfort there,
Yeah. So how was How was the movie without giving anything away?
It's good. It's good. It's good. I love Tom Cruise. Say what you want, but he's always been one of my favorite actors. He's just solid. He's solid, and yeah, yeah, I recommend it, especially if you like the first one. There's some America. They show the flag, and I'm a big lover of the flag, and
Yes, sir.
so kind of gets your pride up a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I recommend it.
I had Tom Skerritt on a few months ago.
Oh yeah,
Man, what a guy.
yeah,
I've always loved him,
yeah,
and he told this story about watching Citizen Kane, and that's what just got his motor running. Oh, man, what a guy he is. Have you ever come across Tom?
I've never met him. He's certainly up there in the echelon of actors that I'd love to meet.
Yeah, he's something, man, and he's still working. He's doing all kinds of stuff. Just a great dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to watch it. We watched The Batman last night.
Mm-hmm.
On it's running on HBO Max right now.
Yeah.
And we watched it last night. And have you saw it?
Yeah.
What do you think about
it? Well, it's hard for me. I don't think I'm a good judge of superhero movies. It's hard for me for some reason to invest in the stories because it's not real, man. you know, uh, uh, actors making millions and millions and millions of dollars flying around with capes, wearing tights. For me, it just takes me out. I don't know why. I wish it didn't. I still have my comic book collection from when I was a kid. I went to see the original Hulk with Eric Bana, and I was so excited. And I was underwhelmed by that film, and I have been underwhelmed by every superhero movie. To me, it's just so predict. I know what's going to happen, and
it?
so it's hard. But I loved the way it looked. I mean, it was gritty and dirty and rainy, which I loved. I loved that feel.
Really dark and dramatic.
I think Robert Pattinson is a great actor. He kind of got a bad rap there when he did all the what was it,
the Twilight stuff.
Twilight, yeah, but no, he's a great actor.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me.
It was okay. Yeah, it surprised you liked it more than you thought you would.
Well, I thought to me, it ran way too long.
Yeah.
I had a big thing with that. I think we all kind of agreed. Well, except for my stepdaughter, she thought the whole thing was interesting. Right. I loved the premise, I guess, of it, and I thought Robert Pattinson did as close to Michael Keaton as I've seen, really.
Yeah.
Which surprised me. He did good with that role. And my expectations were not very high for him in that role, but he exceeded what I was expecting for sure. But it was almost 3 hours. I mean, I think
having those false endings too. It's like, okay, it's got what? Oh, we're gonna go. We're still going.
I mean, I liked it. I liked it, but I think what I said was, yeah, it was good. It was a good one time watch just to watch it. It was not a bad movie in my opinion, but I probably wouldn't watch it again. My wife said the same thing. My stepdaughter said, well, I would watch it again. You know,
Yeah. How old's your stepdaughter?
she's 17.
Oh, okay.
But she
Yeah, I
is,
mean, my son loved it, but both of my boys loved it. They're 16,
okay,
7.
she's way into the Marvel stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, when I say way into it, and we love it too, but she's got us really into it.
Right.
You know, you notice Groot up here pointing at
Oh,
Gilly.
yeah, there he is. There, Gilly. Nice. You got one of the original cans, too.
Yeah. I think, I'm trying to think where that came from. I think it came from like, we rent in the house we're at right now, and there's a shed out back. I think we found it in the shed.
Oh, that's cool.
Because the woman that lived here was from Texas before.
Is it a pot? Like I used to, when I was a kid, I used to collect beer cans, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's there's nothing in it, but it's never been open.
Right.
But
look, it's an old pull top too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it doesn't have a year. Well, let's see. It says Spotsville Brewery Incorporated, Shiner, Texas.
Yep.
But yeah, I thought, man, what a good little thing right there. I've never even seen one, but it was just kind of laying.
Is it opened from the bottom? Is it?
No, it's got
nothing. Just got nothing in it, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, can you imagine that we as kids we survived the pull tops? Like we didn't we didn't swallow them.
Ain't that something? Really? Nobody talks about that.
All right.
Nobody talks about that, but that's the truth. What about the even the pop tops?
Yeah.
I mean, you know how that would have to kill you if you swallowed one of those bottle tops because they were so sharp on the edges.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just 1,000 wonders that
we didn't have to wear helmets when we went riding our bicycles, and
right. We all ended up okay.
It's a safe world now.
Yeah, but you just don't eat Tide Pods,
Yeah, that's all you got to do is not eat a Tide Pod, and you should make it.
And by the way, speaking of Gilly, Mickey Gilly just passed.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I wanted Groot to kind of pay tribute to Mickey Gilly there.
He's a legend.
Oh,
Ray Liotta just died. You believe that?
Yeah, I saw that. He died in his sleep.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet him or?
That would have been a bucket lister for me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Goodfellas for us was, I mean, that's to me that's in my top 5-10 films. That's what I want to watch. I want to watch movies like that, movies that are dialogue heavy and plot heavy, as opposed to all the other stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
So,
are you into the Marvel stuff too? I mean, I know you've kind of been a part of that, but
yeah, I mean it was fun to play. Although they gave me this tiny little truncheon, like in that episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. that I did. Thor has this giant hammer.
Mm-hmm.
My hammer was like, I had penis envy. I had hammer envy, truncheon envy. But
so you had a penis pounder.
Again, I just can't. I'll watch it, but I just most of the time it leaves me feeling cold. It doesn't move me.
Do you feel comfortable watching yourself? your own work?
Yeah.
You do?
Well, yeah, I like to watch. I just want to. I just want to know that I didn't make a dumbass of myself.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, even if I'm playing a dumbass, right?
yeah.
I want to know that I played a dumbass,
The best
the best dumbass that I could possibly be. And if I feel that it was passable and that I had done a good job, I don't have a good problem with it. I don't know if I've ever really watched and been like, oh man, what was I doing there? I mean, I know I've had moments like that, but for the most part, I think I've done a pretty decent job through my career.
Oh, by far, dude. Go back to the wrestling thing. Is that something you just wanted to get into, or did you watch like pro wrestling, at home, or kind of?
My dad, my dad was was my world, man. Like my dad raised me by himself. I wanted to be just like my dad. And at a young age, he started taking me to high school wrestling matches. He wrestled in high school for the school that we both graduated from. So when I was a real little kid, he was taking me to wrestling matches. He was taking me to football games. And I can remember going down after the matches and looking up at these guys, and they had their wrestling uniforms on, and before the match they'd come out and they'd do this thing and the crowd would go crazy, and I was just like, these guys were like superheroes. I mean, they were like real superheroes. They had tights and stuff on too, but
sure,
the required uniform.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that. Maybe that's because at a young age, I admired, guys in tights who actually were truly, putting it all on the line. And so, I started wrestling when I was in fifth grade, and wrestled for 11 years, but I never, in my house, WWE, was it called WWE at the time? I think
it was WWF back when we were
back in the day, WWF,
Yeah.
And then it became like an environmental thing or whatever. The Wide World,
the
Wildlife Federation or something.
And they had to change it. Yeah.
But I did see Jimmy Superfly Snuka back in the day. We went to the Canton Civic Center, and I got to see it, and it was wild. It was wild, So, but no, it's always been more collegiate Olympic wrestling that I've been interested in.
Yeah, and of course, most people know, it's totally different. Pro wrestling's like sports entertainment, actually.
Yeah.
Like they're like acrobatic soap opera actors. Stuntman, right? Yeah. And then the kind of wrestling,
still great athletes. Yeah. I'll take nothing away from.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very athletic, very choreographed matches. Some of these old timers like Snuka, like Ric Flair, they called it in the ring, which is amazing to watch. If you go back and watch some of those from the 80s, especially like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair,
right.
Calling spots while they're in the ring, and they know there's a whole art to that. But now you're talking about, and most people know this, but for those that don't, this is actually grappling, wrestling holds. This is actually wrestling.
Yeah.
On this level, this is not high spots and all the jumping off the top rope. There's no ring. I mean, it's a whole different deal. This is real wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I did get to do I did a TV movie with Roddy Piper.
Oh, wow. What was the name of it?
It was, hold on, one of my dogs wants to. This is the Cheech.
Hey, buddy.
Huh?
What? Cheech is his name?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's a Chihuahua.
I love dogs.
Yeah, me too. We've got a Labradoodle, Chihuahua, and some kind of terrier. You know, we rescue our dogs. So
Yeah.
except for the Labradoodle, the designer. Back when I was making a bunch of money and I was all fancy, we got a fancy dog. It was called Three Wise Guys, and it was Nick Turturro, Judd Nelson, Katie Segal.
Oh, wow.
Tom Arnold, and me,
And Roddy Piper.
And Roddy Piper. Yeah. He was awesome, man. He was awesome.
Wow, that's interesting. What year would that have been?
This was before I had kids, so I mean, probably was at least 17 years ago. Yeah.
How was Katie?
Awesome.
You worked with her.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she's a hell of a singer.
Yeah.
I did not know this until the Sons of Anarchy. I was like, dude, she is a great singer.
She's a triple threat.
I loved Married with Children. I still do. I've got a No Ma'am shirt, actually.
Yeah.
That's just a great thing. And I heard they're doing like an animated series.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And
I mean, she does all the, like, you know, Futurama, and she's everywhere. She's everywhere. You know, she's married to Kurt Sutter, Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah. My buddy Shooter Jennings had a song on that show, and it really got him a lot of, people tuned into him. He already had a big audience, followers of his kind of own stuff he was doing. Really, nobody else was doing what he was doing. They still ain't. But man, he got a song there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's Waylon and Jesse's only son.
Okay, yeah.
He's badass.
I saw David Allan Coe on your bio there too.
Yeah.
That's a good one. What about Hank Jr.? Any brushes with Hank Jr.?
Not really. We've talked about Alabama football a little bit, which I know you love that. Just oozing Alabama football. You are.
Yeah.
Like we was talking before we got on there.
Yeah.
No, I love Hank though, man. And actually me and Shooter, that's kind of how he's a big Hank Jr. fan. Of course, he's known Hank Jr. his whole life since he was born.
Right.
Because of Waylon. So he was kind of always around, but we are huge, like fans, like go deep on his catalog. I've been to a lot of his shows. I've only met him like a couple of times. He probably wouldn't even remember, but I know a lot of people that was in his band and in his crew, and kind of from that day, David Allan Coe, I've always been really interested in David. He's such an interesting cat. He's got such an amazing childhood. Like I've even heard that, I don't know if it's true. Okay. But I've heard that he taught Charles Manson how to play guitar in prison.
Wow.
I don't know if that's true or not. But still, what a thing to think about,
Why was David in prison?
I think he was just kind of it was like juvenile. He was bounced around, sort of these juvenile
So
places.
yeah, that makes sense. When they were younger.
Yeah, he was really young, and then he just was doing all kinds of stuff. I think I don't know what all. I'd have to look it up to even know what all. But I mean, he was trouble. You know.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I did a fundraiser after he had a wreck. This was what? This is 2022, so this would have been around like 2012 or 2013 maybe. So 9 or 10 years ago. It was in Kentucky. Okay, and it was at this there's a church on this side and the bar's right across from the church. I'm not shitting you.
Of course.
It's called Pope's House, which is my last name.
Uh-huh.
And so the deal is they go get shit faced at the bar on Saturday night. Whoever's left over just kind of goes over to the church, and the owner of the whole deal is a preacher.
The night before.
It's like a one-stop shop, heaven and hell, on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Well, David, there was a lot of press there and everything because David, it was a fundraiser for him to pay his medical bills. And so I was on the show. Confederate Railroad was on the show. Dallas Moore was on the show. And there was Kentucky Headhunters, I think. There was a couple more. David, he had a cane. He was walking with a cane. And him and his wife, I was on the bus with Danny Shirley, is the singer for Confederate Railroad. He's a good friend of mine. Danny's known David a long time. He used to play. Confederate Railroad kind of was David's backing band. Danny actually would book shows for him, just all kinds of stuff. So David come up on the bus and Danny introduced me to him. And I was talking to him and I said, man, I heard you wrote Jack Daniels, If You Please, when you was 10 years old. And he said, well, no, I was 9.5.
Boom, take that, kid.
And he starts telling me the whole story. But yeah, what a character he is. I mean, he was good. He had some great records, like just, deep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Northern Ohio, but I went to school in Southern Ohio. So I was considered a Yankee.
Yeah.
Just the demarcation from Northern Ohio to Southern Ohio.
Right.
So I didn't know much. I didn't know much about, I knew about, like, to me, Glenn Campbell was country music, but when I went down to Wright State down in Dayton, started listening to Hank Williams Jr. and Randy Travis.
Oh yeah.
And Charlie Daniels had already been kind of mainstreamed by that time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when I kind of I bought a pair of Tony Lama boots and kind of assimilated with Southern Ohio and started learning about a little bit more about that type of music. So I appreciate it. My dad, again, has taught me. He was the one that kind of taught me to appreciate music of all kinds. So I've always been a big, fan of music. I always thought I'd end up being a musician,
Really?
Anything else certainly more than an actor. Being an actor was just like, I didn't, I was a wrestler, football player,
Yeah.
But,
you play any instruments?
Always loved music. I started tapping my fingers when I was a kid and I realized that I could keep a beat, so I always thought that I'd be a drummer. I have a set of Pearl. It's a Pearl export kit out in the garage. I go out there and bang around on it, but I'm not nearly as good as I wanted to be. But I like to sing and I like music. I appreciate musicians, and it's my sister and I. Again, since the passing of my father, I had people say, your dad will still speak to you, and
Absolutely.
I want to believe that. I'm doing my best to have a spiritual connection with God, and so my sister and I both, we realized that. My sister said to me the other day, she's like, Dad will speak to us through the music now. Because there are songs that come on the radio, and my sister will call me and she'll be like, I was having, my dad just died in March. So, but my sister was like, I was having a day and all of a sudden this song came on the radio and it reminded me of Dad. And I was like, there's Dad. That's Dad talking to me.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of that,
Well, I'll tell you, I'm pretty open-minded to any wildest, what most people would call a conspiracy. I'm pretty open-minded to any of that because I've seen both sides of it. So I don't rule anything out. But
yeah.
since we've lost Mama, we've had some weird stuff happen. And there's no explanation for any of it, really.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick example just so you can kind of keep that door open to, there's no disputing that's my dad,
Yeah.
Okay, the night after she died, well, often you don't know exactly when.
Right.
We're not really afraid, but it's
just pressed in there and ready to burst forth.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like if they're sitting down a little too long on the counter and you barely tear the paper and they just blow everywhere. And then sometimes it's like you tear the whole paper off and they're still not, and you're afraid to pick it up because if you move, that kind of thing. Mama thought that was hilarious. And we had 2 cans of like Pillsbury Grand biscuit dough in the refrigerator at our house. This is the night after she died. We're sitting there kind of talking about her, and all of a sudden we hear this big pop. And we're like, what in the hell was that? And we go into the laundry room, and I thought something fell off the wall or something. And nothing's out of place. We go in the kitchen, nothing's out of place, and we end up opening the fridge. Dude, one of those cans of biscuits was just exploded in the fridge.
Right.
Now, how does that even happen?
Right. Especially in the fridge. I mean,
in the fridge. Yeah, exactly. They were still, the temperature hadn't changed. I mean, so,
that's Mama.
That's the first thing. We talked about John Schneider a little bit before we come on the air.
Yeah.
John's mother was everything to him also. And, me and him's talked a lot about, if they're around, and he fully believes that they are too, because he's had some weird stuff happen. Yeah. So your dad he's going to be around, man. I'm telling you, we're like, our bodies are like energy, I believe, and energy you can't destroy, they say.
Right. It just goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
My story, I have a quick little one. When my dad was in hospice for 6 days, and I was with him for 5 of the days, and I guess it was one of the last nights, and we were in his room. It was mostly dark, and I stayed in the room with him, and then my sister came the last 2 nights and stayed in the room with us. And one night I was just sitting in there in the dark, kind of with my dad and eating Skittles. I had some Skittles. My dad said, you have candy? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, what do you got? I was like, I got some Skittles. I was like, you want a Skittle? Because he was having trouble swallowing. He was aspirating his anything that he drank or ate. And I was like, I can give you a Skittle. Do you want a Skittle? And he was like, sure. And I said, what flavor do you want? And he was like, what do you got? So I told him all the different flavors, and he goes, give me an orange Skittle. So I gave him one orange Skittle, and he ate that, and he was like, yeah, pretty good. He was having trouble tasting. He couldn't really taste anything. And I was like, can you taste it? Can you taste it? He's like, yeah, I can taste it. So after my dad had passed, I was flying home, and I was on the plane. I was having trouble on the plane. I was just, thinking about, the idea of my dad not being around anymore, not being able to talk to him, and thinking about what people had said to me about him talking to me. And I remembered I had some Skittles left over, so I took out the bag of Skittles. It was a pretty big bag, but they were almost gone. I was reaching in and eating Skittles. And I reached in, I grabbed I grabbed the rest of them and ate those. And then I was going to throw the bag away, and I heard there was still a Skittle in there. And I opened up the bag, and there was one Skittle left in there. It was an orange Skittle. Yeah. And I was just like, maybe that's it. Maybe that's my dad just saying, Ed, keep going, man, hang in there. And I kept it, and I carry it with me, in the bag, like wherever I go now, I carry it with me,
I love that.
Yeah. So I hope I don't know if you can hear our bird over there chirping. I hope that's okay.
Oh yeah. We here on Picking It Out, man. We just,
all right. It's
all goes, whatever.
All right.
we want to feel like we're sitting, in the living room or just whatever. It doesn't matter about it. We're real here,
Right on. Oh, I can tell.
That's a great story, dude. That's a really good story. I know your dad was just a great guy. I can just tell by the way you look and the way you talk about him. And it's one of those things. It's like, I think maybe it'll get easier, over time. I feel like they take a piece of us with them.
Oh yeah. I'm changed. I'm forever changed by my dad's existence. Obviously, my dad taught me to at a very young age. When you shake a man's hand, you get nice and deep, right? You get nice and deep on the grip. You look him straight in the eye.
Yeah,
and he taught me a lot of good things, and it's one of the first things I taught my sons, when you shake a man's hand, get nice and deep, you look them dead in the eye, and it goes a long way, man.
It does.
And so that's just the kind of guy he was, he was a good dude, and funny, loved to sing. And anyway, we'll miss him. We miss him.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were saying that they take a piece of you with them. And I mean, since my dad's passing, as I said, when I was looking at my wife sitting next to me, I'm thinking more along the lines of like what is really important to me in this life, family, friends, a human connection, honesty, gratitude. These are all things that I'm, and my 21 years in AA has also taught me about gratitude and stuff like that. But man, since the passing of my father, um, I guess it's really kind of set in, you know.
Yeah.
So
Stay, stay strong with that. You know, don't let any temptations creep in there. You know, because it's been a hell of a long time, and you know, I would hate to know that because you take that one drink and it's like it's over. You know.
yeah, no, I do the math, man. I go, cause you know, there are times when my wife and I will be sitting around going, you know, like looking at a beautiful sunset or whatever. And for whatever reason, instead of being able to just enjoy a beautiful sunset, we'll be like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a couple of beers or, you know, smoke a joint or whatever. And then we go, okay, so here, so let's play it out, you know, let's
Mm-hmm.
play it out. If we did that, you know, this could possibly happen, then this, then this, then this, then next thing you know, we're back, you
Yeah,
know, in the beginning. And I have no desire to go back there, you know.
that's good.
Yeah.
Uh, well, you know, I guess, my gosh, I mean, we could talk all day.
I mean, I'm
After,
good to go as long as you are.
after, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. After, you know, getting fired by your uncle,
Yeah.
going back to that, what then? You just do LSD and,
Uh, well, the girl that I was with, that's another thing, you know, touching back to my wife. I was destined for bimbo. Like my girlfriends are
I need that on a shirt.
destined for bimbo. You know, I was a lot of strippers, a lot of broken, you know, female, because I wanted to save them, and I could fix them, and I could make them better and give them a better life. And, you
Uh
know, I
huh.
mean, and, you know, that was just an excuse not to look at my own stuff.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
If I could, if I, and I went through that with my mom too, because my mom was very broken, and I was always trying to, you know, make my mom better, which was a exercise in futility that I didn't realize until I, you know, got sober and pulled my head out of my ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I the girl that I was with, that I moved out to California with, was a stripper, and she would come back from Houston. She was from Houston, so she'd come back from Houston with, you know, a sheet of acid, and we would just take acid and all this stuff.
Oh,
And she left. She took off back to Houston one day. She went back for her birthday, and I was like, okay, babe, well, you know, call me when you get down there. And I basically never heard from her again. And
nice.
I mean, I was, you know, I was broken in many, many ways at that time. So she was gone. You know, my job with my uncle was over. My reputation and my relationship with all my extended family, because of my uncle, and, you know, because it was my mom's sister, so it was my uncle through marriage. And I mean, everything was bad, but you know, I smoked weed and played frisbee on the beach for a year, collected unemployment, and then moved from West Los Angeles into Hollywood. That's my uncle was like, when he fired me, he was like, man, you need to, I don't know, you have these Hollywood friends, and you need to move to Hollywood, I think. And so I moved to Hollywood, and the first friend I had in Los Angeles was Bill Maher. And do you know who Bill Maher is?
I've heard that name, but I can't place a face.
Yeah, Bill Maher he has a show on HBO. Anyway, he's a big political guy.
Okay.
But at the time, he was really the only. I mean, and the way that I became friends with him is a whole other crazy story. I'll go quickly into it, and then we can expand if you want to. But when I was in college, after I quit wrestling, I became reacquainted with an old high school buddy who was one of my best friends in high school, and he was at Ohio State, and he was the number one cocaine and ecstasy dealer in the city of Columbus.
Good title to have.
I didn't know this until we started hanging out again, and he pulled out a kilo of cocaine, but he decided he wanted to be a stand-up comedian. So he and I started traveling all around like West Virginia and Kentucky and little states around Ohio, doing these crappy little comedy clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember one time sitting we were in like West Virginia, and I overheard the table next to me, and I heard the guy go, "Look, he even brought his little boyfriend with him." Because we were like city slicker.
Stuck out like a sore thumb, as we say here in Alabama.
Big time. And so he had met Bill down in Houston after one of Bill's shows, and so when I moved to California, I called Bill up and I said, "Hey man, I'm in California," and we met at this place called the Trader Vic on Santa Monica Boulevard or Wilshire, I guess, and ended up, back at his house in the hot tub with two girls from the Budweiser bobsled team. Remember those commercials? Budweiser bobsled.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, yeah,
I've made it.
I made it, bro. And so, when my uncle said, "You've got these Hollywood friends," that was kind of it. But I moved to Hollywood and then eventually started working in production as a production assistant, sweeping up cigarette butts, getting people their coffee, picking up all the heavy stuff. And I'll never forget the day they gave me my walkie-talkie. That was another one of those I made it moments. I was like, dude.
Now I'm important.
Yeah. Because chicks love, if you got to, hold on, man. 10-4, I'll run your coffee, And I was working on a Pringles commercial, and they were on the beach, and there was a young kid riding a skateboard, and I had to pull his skateboard across the frame. It was and that was my job, and the kid would be like, "Hey man," he was like, what are you doing? He's like, you should be doing what I'm doing. And I was like, oh, and at the end of the day, he drove off in his brand new Jeep with, this is how I remember it, with a couple hot chicks. And I walked over to my jalopy. It was an old Caprice Classic with the back window broken out. Yeah. And I was like, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
And so I got into acting class and was tinkering around with acting class, but I was still drinking and doing drugs. I like to smoke crack, which was probably, that's where I ended up. That was my bottom. You know?
Yeah.
And I used to go to this crack house, and May and Terry, they were two of the heaviest set crackheads that I've ever seen in my life. And they would shut down the crack house when I would come because they knew I was bringing money. Wow. And so one day they stopped me and said, we're worried about you.
Wow.
The owners of the crack house.
Yeah, man.
told me that they thought I was they were like, Ed, you're sprung, man. You're sprung. You're smoking too much. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? How dare you? Um,
Wow.
so I had been up for like 48 hours or whatever. And I called my acting partner in the morning because I knew I wasn't going to make rehearsal that day. And I just was like, oh, yeah, man, I'm not feeling so good. I think I got the flu or whatever. And he said, you know what, Eddie, I'm going to find another acting partner because you're not serious about this. And I am.
Mm.
And that was kind of a touchstone moment for me. I was like, the clouds kind of opened up there, and certainly that was one of them where I was like, yeah, maybe I need to change my life. And so I did. I started getting sober, and I relapsed a few times and slipped and slid and did this and that, but basically I was on the path to sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that happened, things started to happen for me, and I got Rick, my manager, through class, and got an agent and started booking. Ironically, my first real money job was I did this Coors Light campaign where we were giants in the Rocky Mountains playing football. And so, I'd catch the ball and jump over the mountain and
Okay.
Cat the Rockies, Coors Light, and I did the football commercial and the bowling commercial, and I still lived in a crappy apartment, but the rent was paid, and I still had a jalopy, but there was, gas in the tank. And
Yeah.
for the first time in my life, I was actually, taking care of myself and paying my own bills with my own money.
Yeah.
And, I stayed sober, and I got very, very lucky, man, which is, again, it was why I've always been so grateful to have been, I was basically voted most likely to end up in jail.
Mm.
And so to be able to have that kind of success and to be able to have an opportunity to give myself a chance to have some success. I forgave myself and really started being clear about what I wanted from life and who I wanted it to be.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's, the production assistant, is that like are you like a 1099 contractor?
Yeah,
Is it for a
independent
production
contractor.
company? Okay.
Yeah. So you go just from job to job, which kind of got me used to the idea of going from job to job as an actor.
Yeah.
Which in the end has been, as I look back, I mean, it's made me, I already had the mental toughness thing from my wrestling. So I think that helped me a lot, but certainly, man, that the instability of never knowing when your next job was going to happen and what your next thing was going to be has been, as a father, certainly has been less fun.
Oh yeah.
Than it was when I was single,
Yeah. Whole different ball game there.
Yeah.
Because, these kids are depending on you, to keep them fed and just have a home. I mean,
yeah,
it's like you take them to the doctor when you need to. It's, when you're by yourself, it's a whole different thing. It's like, I can get by, for 6 months maybe. And
collect some unemployment.
Yeah.
No big deal. I mean, the dole is what saves actors when they're between jobs, but the dole doesn't really do much for you when you have, a house, two kids, wife, cars, all that.
Yeah. You, whenever you got your agent, I guess that's how you got your actually first on screen role.
Yeah. This was when I was still doing commercials, and I had been, because I had no resume to speak of, my commercial agent had to kind of slide me into the agency without the knowledge of the heads of the agency, because they would have been like, oh, this guy doesn't have any, he doesn't have any credits or anything. So they hip pocketed me in the dance department. And which I didn't really know about. And then I found out, that I was in the dance department. And I remember being to Nathan, my agent at the time, I was like, bro, have you ever seen me dance? Because it's, I could do the white boy shuffle, and that was, I could, do the white boy underbite and stuff, but that was pretty much it. And so he called me one day and he goes, man, I have this audition for Young and the Restless, and it's to dance. And I was like, bro, I told you, man, I'm not a dancer. And he goes, just go. You've got lines, and just try and, just try it, have fun. So I showed up at this audition, and, there all the other guys were there. They're like, doing their dance and stretches and their whatever. And I was like, I'm a wrestler. I was like, man, if my dad could see, I was just like, I don't know about this whole acting thing.
Yeah.
And so they went down the line, and they like, okay, you, and then he kind of did his thing, and you did his thing, and they got to me, and they're like, okay, you. And so all I started doing was the Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there doing the Spicoli, and these two women that were casting, they started laughing. They were like, oh my God, who are you? Like, what are you doing? And I go, man, I don't know, but I'm having a good time. And I got the job.
Wow.
And that was kind of, for me, a through line for the rest of my career was, man, like, I may not really know what I'm doing, but I'm having a good time. And
that comes across.
Yeah, I learned to just be myself. I was like, I am who I am. Just be my authentic self, and don't try and put on any, don't try and bullshit people, because especially out here, they see right through it.
Yeah.
I hope I apologize. I just swore. So
no, man, like I said, just you say whatever you want to.
But so on my birthday, I guess maybe 1997, my Young and the Restless aired, and for the first time, I got to actually speak on camera. And I remember in the dialogue, I added this Elvis thing. I was like, we were at the club at a bar or something, and these girls came over and asked, or I asked them to dance, and then I did this, like, on the dance floor, baby, like out of nowhere, again, it was like just being myself, just that's the kind of stuff I would do in life. I'd be like, yeah, baby, we're gonna, right. So I was off to the races, and I had to dance on the dance floor, and it was embarrassing. And, someday I'll find the clip and further embarrass myself by posting it to one of my social media sites.
Oh yeah, you got to.
Yeah.
So now you had something on your resume.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's kind of gets a little easier from there, at least for, spots on some well-known shows.
Yeah. The biggest thing was class, because when I got sober, I basically lost, 87% of my friends because I was no longer doing the things that we didn't have anything in common anymore.
Yeah. They're real friends.
So, yeah. So I was in class. And so instead of going every, Thursday, I would go Monday through Thursday. I would go every day and audit the other classes. And I did good work, man. And so this guy that was in class, he went to his manager and said, you should see this kid. You should meet with this young kid in class. I think he's got something. And I met with that man, and that man was Rick Bedingfield, who you've spoken with. And, Rick said to me, he goes, normally I wouldn't take somebody that had virtually no experience. I mean, by that time I was 27. I didn't even start till I was like 27. And he said, but I have a good feeling about you, and I'm willing to take a risk with you. And, the first audition that Rick got me, I went to Network for. It was going to be a spinoff of Married with Children, and it was going to be kind of a take on Friends, and the show was called Enemies, and it was a bunch of kids living together that they couldn't stand each other, like where Friends was like, yeah, we all look, it was the anti-Friends.
Wow.
And
that's a great idea.
Yeah. And it was going to be part of a Married with Children episode that they were going to then spin off to its own show. And I didn't get it, but I went to Network, which is, one of the most terrifying things that, you can do as a human being. I was making like $400 a week working my ass off as a production assistant. And then before you walk in for your network test, you sign your contract. My contract was for $25,000 a week.
Wow.
And that kind of puts because you go, well, my life will change forever. It will be forever changed.
Yeah.
I was going to make more in 1 week than my dad was making in a year at that time,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a wild experience. And I've had good tests, and I've had some bad tests, but it's it's wild because I'm like I've always been kind of a look at me guy, except for when you then decided to look at me, and then I'm like, hey man, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
So there's this weird thing. Like I want attention, but at the same time, when I get it, I'm not comfortable with it. So, okay. Yeah. I mean, hey, what should I be? An actor, of course. So
yeah.
Weird dichotomy there.
Well, that's an interesting thing of the spinoff with Married with Children. Was there going to be any original Married with Children?
I assume, yeah, because it was going to be a part of a Married with Children episode.
Okay.
Where they introduced all the characters. So I'm assuming we would have probably met through, maybe Bud or the daughter or then carried it over. So I'm sure to get this show up and running, they would have had some of the main characters come over into the show,
So how does that work? Do you basically, your agent says, well, did they have a script developed for Enemies?
Yeah.
And you just did a screen test?
Yeah, I did like 2 scenes from the script.
Okay.
And you walk into the network studio head's office, and there's 20 executives sitting in his office, and they're like, dance, monkey boy.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta dance. And like I said, I've had good ones and I've had not so good ones. but it's rough, man. It's rough. I mean, not like it takes you back to like, give me a reason to drink, man. You
Yeah.
know, walking out of there. I mean, I walked out, I was shaking.
Well, for people that don't understand really, how some of that works, you actually never even made it to film the pilot episode. It never even went that far, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the whole idea just was basically none of it was ever done.
Correct.
But it was just a plan to go in and pitch it to these executives.
Yeah. I mean, I think it had progressed to the point, obviously, where they were testing for the show. So I think they had every intention of casting the show and doing the show. I don't, for whatever reason, I think maybe they couldn't find the cast that they wanted. And I mean, that's another thing about, when you're okay, let's say you want to be an actor. Okay, I want to be an actor. So you go in, you're like, okay, I got to get into class. And so you get into class and you're like, okay, now I've got to get an agent. And then you get an agent. And then you're like, okay, I want to get an audition. So then you get an audition. And then you're like, boy, I hope I get called back. I'm so worried. I hope and then you get called back. And then I mean, it never ends. I mean, even if you get let's say you get the audition, you go to the network, you get the show, you're on the show. Now you're worried about if the show's going to get picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And if the show gets picked up, that it doesn't mean you're out of the woods yet, because then you got to worry about if the show's going to stay on the air.
Yeah.
And so the only time in my career after 25 years that I've ever had any type of job stability, I would say it was like season 3 of Warehouse 13, because
wow.
we had done 2 seasons. We were the number 1 show in the history of the network, and I was like, I could relax.
Yeah.
So for that year, I had like some job stability.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's been, it's always been, and that's just my path. I mean, there are actors out there that have gone from show to show to show to show and had successful shows. But that just wasn't my path,
Yeah.
Someone once wrote of me, Eddie McClintock has done more pilots than a stewardess. Because I did pilot, show, pilot, show, and none of them, Warehouse 13 was the only one that went past season 1. And while it was very popular in that niche, it didn't give me the kind of visibility that I would have had I been doing a show on CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox.
Yeah.
Back then those were the networks.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Before, Netflix and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess, that's why I'm where I'm at. I've had a lot of success, and I'm grateful for my success, but my bank account says to me that I wish that I had had more success,
Yeah. Well, it's music is a lot like that. It's interesting how all of our worlds kind of intermingle, and it's totally different, but at the same time, it's really the same.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, these damn executives in an office somewhere dangle shit over all of our heads. And, it's like, who's gonna, kiss ass the most is a lot of them, thoughts, and, who's gonna, who do you know? Like, that's a big part of it.
Oh yeah.
I've never been an ass kisser. I just don't have it in me. And I click better with people as far as working with people that are kind of like me, like-minded people. And they also know about me that I'm not going to kiss their ass or, some executive or whatever. I mean, I've had opportunities to have big record deals, once or twice. And it's just like, I can't sell myself to that level knowing how much control I'm going to lose over my own, work, art, life, songs, image. They want you to wear a certain thing. I mean, it's down to the, they just have all the say, and I don't like that, but us starving artists, man.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well, you've done pretty well for yourself, man. So congratulations to you. But I hear you on that reluctance to kiss ass. I've kissed a few asses. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I played the game, but I was never willing to play. I just was like, like the red carpet and all that. And it just seems, I just wasn't, it's not in me, man. Like I like doing the acting. It's fun. I can make a bunch of money at it. I was good at it, but a lot of the other stuff that comes with it, and again, I guess I would probably be further along had I been willing to, pucker up a little more voraciously than I have been.
But at the same time, it's like, if you think about, okay, well, they're wanting me to, they want you to compromise actually who you are, what got you to that big table with 20 people sitting there. They want you to compromise who you are and just fake it, basically, for the sake of their own egos. I feel like not everybody, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
The majority of them, the ones that are really big wigs, that's got the longer ties,
right.
I mean, every one of them I've met, they're all the same. And it's unfortunate because they take advantage of people in our positions, a lot. It happens a lot. And a lot of people get these big advances when they sign record deals, for example. Then they end up either having to pay it back, or their album that they recorded it, that they used the money, the $250,000 or whatever, their album gets shelved because their single didn't sell enough or whatever.
And now they're in worse debt than they were
exactly
when they started out, because they spent the money and probably bought a house. And I went through all that, man. I went through, we were making money, I was making money for Rick. I continued to, I had plenty of failures. I had shows that were on and canceled, but there was still this progression. I was still getting paid. I was still in the rooms. I was still getting hired. And then, being an old, straight, white male in this town, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as to say that I'm basically persona non grata, but, I am not who they're looking for anymore.
Yeah.
And it's, the houses are gone, the cars are gone, and, the fancy clothes, my wife and I were wearing Prada and Gucci and had the shoes and all the stuff, and it's all gone, and that's okay. I did it. I had it.
Right.
I was there. It was cool for a while. But again, as I said earlier, especially with the passing of my dad, I just got to go, man, what is important to me in this life that I'm, I look out at the world now and man,
Oh yeah.
it's so crazy in the world right now. And I'm just like, I just want to move to like Tennessee or, Utah or, Wyoming or somewhere. And just my wife wants to have horses and, I'm just like, man, as long as I have basic cable and internet and, I have a movie theater that I can go to. I'll pretty much be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
that shit doesn't mean anything really. Well, especially I've
yeah,
not had it, but you have, and
yeah,
a lot of my friends have. And
yeah,
it really doesn't mean it's material stuff, man, and you can't take it with you when you go. And it ain't what life is. Isn't, it's not like your life's going to just drastically, be like, oh, if I can't wear my Gucci shoes, if I just know they're not sitting there in the closet getting dust on them, then my life's over. It's not like that.
yeah. I was no happier then than I
Yeah.
am now, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, with more money, more problems,
Oh
basically.
yeah. Yeah. That's another thing. I mean, you spend more and more problems.
Spend more, which means you got to make more.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm being ungrateful or poor me. I don't
Oh
want to come
no,
on
not at
like a
all. Not at
like a
all, man.
pussy, but it's just like I said, man. I had some fun days when I was younger, and I mean, I'm still getting auditions. And as long as I continue to get auditions, I'll stay in the game. I directed my first film a few weeks ago.
Oh, awesome.
I don't know. Do you know who Dean Cain is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. John's friends with him.
Oh yeah. Well, Dean and I have been friends for a few years, and when things started like getting weird in Hollywood,
Yeah,
for me, I went to Dean because Dean does a lot of these faith-based films.
yeah.
And I just said, hey Dean, man, if you ever need a guy to, come in and help out, I'm around. And Dean hooked me up with this company, and I did a few films with them. And then the owner of the company, he just said, man, I love the way you are with these young actors. When you're on the set, would you direct one of my films?
Awesome.
And for the first time in years, I felt like I was able to be creative and artistic again. And we shot for 2.5 weeks, and it was 14-hour days, and it was exhausting, but man, I loved it. And so, hopefully there's a new door open for me there. I think there is. And I think that I think I can be good at it as well.
Now, is that finished rapping?
We wrapped production, but it's in post now, so it'll be in post for probably 7 months or so, maybe a little less.
Yeah.
But I'll let you know, man. It's a true story about about faith, and the fact that it's okay to have faith, and it's okay, like you can believe what you want to believe, and you shouldn't be ashamed to feel one way or the other, and you shouldn't be put down for feeling one way or the other.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'll tell you, man, I went through a time in my life where, because I grew up Catholic, and the nuns were terrible to me when I was a kid. They used to put me in literally put me in a box in the room, and box me off from the rest of the class. And so
Wow.
I went through a period in my life where, and then, I hear about, this, religious figure that did all these terrible things by stealing money from the congregation. And so I moved away from, having faith. I moved away. I moved so far away that, I used to think that I had this arrogant idea that, people who have faith were just, they believed in ghosts and, this very dismissive idea of people that had faith. And then as I got a little older and, I met some more people, and I met some of the best people that I know that, man, they have faith. And like, who am I to judge what they believe in?
Yeah.
So I kind of have traveled back into this place in my life where, I'm on a spiritual journey. I'm looking, like, with the thing with my dad and the skittle, and, my friend, who I work with on these films, she says she has very strong faith. And she's like, Eddie, man, there are no coincidences. This thing with the skittle, that's not a coincidence. Us working together is not a coincidence. It's not. And you just have to believe that there's a plan. And, I want to believe that. And I'm searching for that understanding,
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy that goes from where I was to being like, oh, hey, God bless you. And, cause I feel that's hypocritical, like until I'm there, until I truly feel like I've reached that point. I just try and ask questions, man. I keep my ears open and I ask questions. So,
Yeah, it seems like, even people that have had faith their whole life or went to church or, believed in a certain, type of religion and, of course, believe in God and pray and all that, which I have my whole life, and I've always had faith. But right now, the way the world is, man, it's like, damn, a lot of people have lost faith.
oh,
They have had it and they've lost it. They've lost faith in God and faith in humanity.
Yeah.
We're going through so much crap, and I just try to, always pray that God just keeps making a way for me and my family, and for healing, for the losses that we endure, and just for good things to happen and for us to be taken care of, man. And, I try to hold on to it. I think it is important to hold on to it. And I think it's important for, I'm glad that you're open to those, even the questions that you have.
Yeah.
That you're trying to seek answers. You're trying to find it because they are out there. And I believe what your friend said, nothing is a coincidence. I really believe that,
Yeah. Well, after these kids just got killed down there in Texas, I wrote my friend and I was like, so how do I reconcile God's plan with the murder of these kids? And, she said, Eddie, we live in an evil world and God has given man a choice.
Exactly.
And, we either move closer to God or we move further away from God. God is there. It's just what we just choose to do. And, that makes sense to me. There's the argument of like, well, if there was God, then why would he allow this to happen to these kids?
Yeah.
And like if you say, well, but he has given mankind a choice,
Mm-hmm. Free
and
will.
Free will, and anyway, I'm
Well, it's a good
on the
thing.
path, brother. I'm on the path at least.
Yeah, and I respect that you, like you said, you don't want to feel hypocritical, and just kind of go through motions. But
Yeah,
you're actually really wanting
and
to.
start talking the talk
Yeah,
just
yeah,
so that I can be part of the club.
yeah. I respect that.
Oh, thank
Just keep looking for that. Keep searching, and shoot me a text anytime too, because I could talk through some stuff with you that I've experienced.
Thanks, man.
Anytime you want to.
Thank
Ben, we're having a damn therapy session today. I feel like
right,
I feel
right.
like
How much do I owe you, Doc?
I feel like humming Goose Fraba, or something. the I want to talk a little bit too about the Friends thing, because Friends was such a damn huge show, and the episode that you got on was one of the most popular ones, probably. I think it's the one where Rachel has a baby, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a two-parter. So there were two. I actually did two episodes.
Yeah.
And it was the season finale that year. So they did two parts. And they had that year was the year that they signed their $1 million an episode contract, which at the time was the biggest in existence.
Yeah.
And so they were making $1 million a week, and I was making just enough to get my jalopy home.
Yeah.
But man, very exciting. The girl who I eventually married, my wife, I actually met her at an AA meeting, and I had this little bungalow overlooking the Sunset Strip, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be on Friends this this Thursday. You want to come over and watch it? And Friends was her favorite show. She always says to me, she's like, that's not why I came up to your house. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of. She's like, no. But we had a viewing party up in my little bungalow, and yeah, I mean, geez, what an exciting, I constantly was going, how I want to write a book called Who Are You and How Did You Get In Here? Because I always felt like, how did this happen? Like, how did I end up here? From Ohio wrestler, football player who never actually considered, like, I didn't go to Juilliard. I didn't go to NYU. I didn't I did study really hard once I got in. But I've gotten to work with some people, and I still, I'm just like, man, this is cool, and I'm lucky, and I'm grateful, to be here.
I can tell you are.
Yeah. I like when I was doing Warehouse 13, it cost like $3.2 million an episode to make that show.
Mm.
And all of a sudden I was the star number one on the call sheet. So I was like the mayor of Warehouse 13, right? I was shaking hands, kissing babies, welcoming people to the set, making sure everybody was. And every day that I showed up to work, I'd be like, hey, good morning. How are you? Because I was like,
just like the coach of the team. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I've been to the crack house.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the crack house. I've been to the bottom.
You've had the crack house concerned.
That's right. I mean, who can tell that story?
It's great.
But so to be able to run around and eat cookies and lick things and press buttons and have a ball and Uh, I mean, who could possibly complain about that?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
why I'm always just like, I look at these actors that are, like that just are assholes, and
Yeah,
I just like, how can you possibly be such an asshole
yeah,
when you have been given the keys to the city, man? Like, you have it all. And again, it just goes to show that success,
mm-hmm.
money, things, you can have everything and just be completely empty inside.
Absolutely. It's what sucks really bad about kind of getting to a certain point in your career and kind of getting to, uh, meet and especially make friends with some of the people you grew up, uh, just as stars, and now you're kind of feel like you're on their level somewhat, some of them.
Yeah.
And when you get into that, finding the one person that just lets you down, like, I always thought about meeting this person, but I wish I hadn't have now.
Yeah.
That
The old never meet your heroes thing, right?
yes, that has only happened to me a couple of times,
Yeah. Same
fortunately.
here. Same here. Same here. I've had pretty good experiences. I mean, like, for instance, when I was little, we used to watch Saturday Night Live. Was the original Not Ready for Primetime Players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dan Aykroyd, Jane
Yeah,
Curtin,
Bill
Gilbert
Murray,
Radner, Bill Murray. I mean,
Chevy.
Chevy Chase, and uh, and then here I am years later playing Jane Curtin's son on a network TV show on ABC.
Yeah,
I mean, when I was a little kid, I used to do all the lines to the show, and that was one of the things I would do to make my mom, to try and get my mom to laugh. My mom was very, very depressed when I was a kid, and so for me, to get my mom to laugh, so I just would do all these impersonations and do all this stuff, and like,
wow.
everything had come to this place where I'm in Hollywood, California, on the set of a TV show with Jane Curtin. Like, what is that?
Yeah,
Like, so as I said, man, grateful. It's hard. It's been harder to be grateful the last few years because, the business has just changed so much. And, like, all of a sudden I am being excluded because of the color of my skin,
mm-hmm.
and the fact that I'm all these things that I had nothing to do, with, like, my age and my skin color and my sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
um,
We're there.
so it's hard not to take it personally, because it's it's all personal. It's me. you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
my business is me.
Your livelihood, your everything. I mean, it is, and it's not something you can. It's you. It's not something like you're trying to be offensive or trying to be like, I quit worrying about offending people. I really hadn't never worried about it. I've not had much of a filter my whole life.
Same.
I just, I may have more of a filter now than I ever have, but I still don't have much of one. I feel like there's a lot of people, man, that's got common sense, and they feel the same way we do. I feel like when they talk about, like, the most people in the world, like, if you hear that on the news or something, it's really don't mean but just a few people that
The
are,
loudest voices.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot of us that still have sense enough to know kind of what's going on, and that it's all really like a dog and pony show. I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of good in the world still, and you don't hear about it. You don't see it.
No.
You hear the bad stuff. And
yeah, information is moving too quickly, and the information that the information givers choose to provide us with, as you said, it's all divisive, and it's all destructive, and
yeah,
you know, I mean, the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads, right? So,
yeah,
it's based on the premise of who wants to hear a good-hearted story,
yeah,
which is why I love doing these faith-based films, because they're all, I mean, these films don't beat you over the head with scripture. They don't beat you over the head with the Bible or with how you need to be or how you shouldn't be. They're just good stories, like stories that at the end you go, oh man, cool. Like that person grew, or that person learned something, or that person's world was opened up.
Yeah.
And man, bring more stories like that into the world. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, as you said, we as a nation and as a world, have moved away from God,
Yeah.
and when you don't have anything to hope for and believe in,
what do you have?
That's pretty bleak, man.
Yeah. What do you have?
I've always wanted to believe, like people say, you're going to see your dad again. You're going to see your dad in heaven. And I'm like, man, I would love to believe that. It would certainly take the pressure off of, like mourning the loss of someone who dies tragically. Because if you believe that, man, I will see them again, it makes your life, it takes the weight off,
Yeah.
So, man, like I said, I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to be back here, but
no, man,
I'm looking for I'm looking for the light, Carol Ann. So,
well, there's a reason, that it keeps coming back to that. And just like there's a reason for everything, man. And it's just, you're probably, we're relating to each other too, because I lost Mama last year. You just lost your dad in March. So, I think there's just like a sense of we're trying to figure out how it's going to be okay still, without even really knowing it, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think it is going to be okay, by the way. It is what it is. And I believe we will see him again one day. I don't feel like if you believe otherwise that you're wrong, and I hope your family dies if you don't believe the way that I believe. We have a lot of that crap going on too.
Right.
And that is just very, very evil thinking to me. A lot of these Hollywood people, man, is just, I don't get that. Why can't we agree to disagree on things? I don't understand. We used to be able to do that.
My way or the highway now.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it's a scary thing, but,
and this, what we're doing right here is a lost art.
It is.
Being able to just sit and shoot the shit, and, like everybody's down here now,
Yeah.
No one needs to develop normal coping mechanisms that would, like, you're in a room full of people back in the old days, you end up talking to them.
Yeah.
You end up, and then, conversation has started and people talk. All of a sudden you make friends. You're like, hey, well, let's meet up and have it. Now everybody gets in the room and they immediately go into their own thing.
Yeah.
And usually what's coming out of that thing is poison.
Yeah, it is.
And, it's like the internet has been the greatest thing for the world and the worst thing for the world.
Exactly. That's how I feel. This Zoom thing we're doing right here. I mean, whoever knew that you would not one day have to have a truck outside and satellite feeds and like all this stuff to do like what we're doing right now.
Right.
So easily.
Yeah.
And cheap, and just basically anybody can do it. You can sit anywhere and talk to anybody wherever they're at. That's amazing to me.
In the entire world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And that stuff's good. It's been a platform for me to get my independent stuff out there. That's been good. But, at the same time, a lot of that's been bad for the music business as a whole, because of, royalties. That's a whole nother thing there, which they're trying to figure that out. They're really trying to figure that out, with the streaming services. And I think we'll get there eventually, but,
when Napster, remember when Napster came out and all that was going on?
Yes.
I like my closest friends, not so much anymore because we all have families now and we've moved around, but my friends were, my closest friends were really successful musicians as well. And they've, one of my buddies, he has a new album and he's just like, it's so diluted now. And it's so, you don't make money on record sales anymore. You make your money touring and on merch. But how do you, if you don't have the backing of the conglomerate to get your album out there, how do you do it? You got to rely on your own social media page. And it's like starting over from the beginning,
Yeah.
So I feel for, I feel for everybody right now. Frankly, I'm just like, man,
I do too.
Good luck to you all.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's a whole lot different now. Like radio used to be such a big thing. Radio is such a shithole now.
Right.
It's so just corporately managed, controlled. Really, not even managed.
Yeah.
But you get on this big Spotify playlist, and all of a sudden, that's the new radio. That's the new
right
thing
exactly.
that the publicists are trying to pitch to these big playlists that people are subscribed to. And it's so different, now. And some of that's the bad side of it, but like we said, there is a good side, like social media can be a really, really good thing, or it can be a really, really bad thing.
Yeah.
And, it gives us a way to get our stuff out there. People that follow you and follow me, they keep up with what we're doing. And if you got some kind of new project coming out or news or whatever, you can, they'll know about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to get a big.
That's the only reason I stay on anymore.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Is to,
yeah.
I used to, like Twitter for me used to be fun when it was 134 characters or whatever, because you had to.
Yeah, you had to be creative with Twitter.
You had to be creative, if you wanted to get the full idea out. And man, now it's just poison.
Yeah, it is. And I don't get any engagement on Twitter anymore, and I'm Facebook's dwindling down to hardly nothing.
Yeah. Well, because if you're not talking about the vitriol,
mm-hmm.
no one wants to, no one can, no one wants to engage.
No. And they're
and
not.
I learned, like,
Yeah.
I learned a few years ago. I mean, every once in a while when I see something that just, I can't tell you how many times I'll type something up and then I'll just go delete. And then I gotta walk away,
I've done it.
because, you're never going to change someone's mind on Twitter.
No.
I mean, it's not, people aren't on Twitter to have discourse. They're on Twitter to puke out their opinions and then, shit on you if you disagree with them.
Yeah. Yeah. From their mom's basement, most of them hiding behind a damn keyboard.
Orange fingers from eating Cheetos.
Yeah.
My Diet Coke is my precious.
Dr. Pepper's my go-to. I'm down to one a day though. To keep it under control.
I used to love Dr. Pepper, but it has all that sugar, man. So
yeah, it's the good stuff though.
My brother was telling me, that initially that was used medicinally.
Dr. Pepper,
right? Because it has it like there's a prune juice in the base of Dr. Pepper. My stepbrother was like, yeah, we used to drink it and we couldn't understand why we were shitting so much. And then he goes, I did some research and that's why it's called Dr. Pepper. Cause it was like, it was like an elixir back when it started out.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So did it have do you know if it had the cocaine thing like Coca-Cola?
Oh, I don't know if it had cocaine in it, but
it's got high fructose corn syrup. I know that.
Yeah,
Caramel color. My God.
Don't do it to yourself, man.
No, that's I'm done with that. till tomorrow.
You're down to 0. Thank you, Eddie McClintock, for ruining the one thing that I enjoyed for the day.
Man, I've tried Coke Zero and I've tried Diet. I can't do it. I can't do it. I gotta have a good old Dr. Pepper or Coca-Cola. But like I said, just one a day. down to one a day and I'm good. I just gotta have that little caffeine kick and I'm good.
Whenever I go to the movies, I'll drink.
Oh yeah, like that big. There's nothing like that big fountain drink, man.
Yep, exactly.
It's nothing like that. I want to go through some of these. Actually, let's see. I found the clip from Friends just because in case a lot of people probably would recognize this. Let me see if I can. See if you can hear this while I do it. So this is a clip from the Friends episode with you and Lisa Kudrow.
Mm-hmm.
See if y'all recognize this.
Just so bad for you. I broke my leg once too.
Yeah, how'd yours happen?
Well, it's a long story. It's kind of embarrassing. Let's just say there was a typographical error with a sex manual. How about you?
Car accident.
Let me guess. Some idiot on a cell phone wasn't paying attention?
Yeah, me. Hey, that's me.
I don't know who was laughing there, but thank you for that.
I take it you're just visiting someone.
Yeah.
Well, if you have some time, and maybe you might want to visit someone else. And...
Yeah, I would like that.
So you could hear that, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that was the one where Rachel has a baby, and
that was part 1.
Part 1, and Lisa or Phoebe run into you getting on the elevator. Y'all kind of had a little thing going there.
Yep.
And the elevator closes with you in it, and she don't know how to find you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
in part 2, she ends up sending Joey into my room, and hilarity ensues. They've made memes about that. I'm a doctor, not a mathematician. And interestingly, and this is another, twists and turns of the career. they were setting me up to be Phoebe's love interest for the following season.
Really?
Yeah. And so they wanted to offer me a deal, a recurring deal. But at that time, I had a network deal at 20th Century Fox. So it would have been a conflict of interest. So I had to fulfill my obligations at 20th Century Fox. So I did a pilot with one of the, it was Brian, one of the showrunners of Friends was doing a pilot with his husband, a guy by the name of Jeffrey Cleric. And so I still had that connection to Friends, but I had to fulfill this pilot obligation. And we made the pilot, and it didn't get picked up. And we went back to Friends and said, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm available again. And they had already cast the new love interest for Phoebe, and that was Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. Wow. Mm-hmm. So you were going to be actually the love interest for Phoebe, like a recurring role.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, that had to be another thing, like, especially when the pilot didn't get picked up, that had to be a thing like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any, like, how was the cast and the
Great.
crew and everything? It was probably top of the line.
Great. It was great. They were all, especially considering they were making $1 million a week. And I was just this guy coming in, they could have been dismissive of me, but I eventually did I worked with Lisa Kudrow on a couple of TV movies that she produced later on down the line. Really enjoyed David Schwimmer, did a couple script readings with him as down the road. And I have I got a picture of them all together that I'll send you. And people on like the crew, they were like, how did you ever get them all together in one picture?
Yeah.
Because apparently, everybody kind of goes there. The girls were buddies and they go this way, and these guys, and everybody would go their separate ways. But I tracked them all down, and I was like, please come do a picture with me. And I got this picture with all of them, which is, I guess, pretty rare.
Yeah.
So, I'll put that on my tombstone.
Oh yeah, for sure. And, going through some of these here, see Spin City. Was that while Michael J. Fox was still on, or had Charlie Sheen come in? Charlie
was there.
Okay.
And I was looking, it's funny. I was looking for a sponsor at the time, and Charlie was still getting sober, and I asked him to sponsor me. And am I allowed to talk about that? I guess it's Alcoholics Anonymous, so maybe anyway, he said, he was like, sorry man, can't do it, bro. But he was cool, and like Alan Ruck was on that show from Ferris Bueller's Swing Batter. That's kind of the thing that I grew up, so, hey, bada, swing, bada.
Yeah.
And Abe Froman, the, Sausage King of New York or whatever it was. And these are all things that, as guys, you sit around and you do quotes from movies, right?
Oh, yeah.
So back in high school and college, we're doing these quotes, and then all of a sudden there I am working with this guy, as a contemporary. So, that was a fun one to be on. I used to do a ton of sitcoms, man. I was like, my first foray into sitcoms was, I got a bit part on this show called Ned and Stacy, which was Thomas Hayden Church and Deborah Messing. and they liked my character so much that they brought me back for like 3 more episodes, to the point where the last episode I was on was named after my character. It was All That Chaz, and I had this love affair with Deborah Messing, and, you know, got to work with Tom Church, who is just hysterical. And I'll never forget when, like, I felt like I belonged. I was there on the set, and Tom Church walked by and punched me in the shoulder. Like, I was like, ah, and then I was like, oh, you know, like, I was like, oh, cool. You know, he felt like I was worth punching.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in, and so that was a good one. You know, working on Just Shoot Me was amazing. Getting to work with you know, that cast, the legendary cast, and
David Spade
and George Siegel. Wendy Malick, and I mean, you know, I was always pinching myself, man. Like, you know, I always felt like I had snuck into the party, though. You know, like I always felt like I was always waiting for them to discover the interloper, like, you know, spy, because you know, these were people that have done it their whole lives, and, you know, gone to, you know, when I first said to one of my buddies who was I worked with as a PA that I was going to be an actor, he was like, Eddie, people come from all over the world to this tiny city to do that. The odds are astronomical that you're going to just like decide one day that you're going to do this and that you'll have success.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I had always was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best at it. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
You know, I never thought of it being any other way. So I didn't let that voice. Well, I mean, you always still have that doubt, you know, like, you know, am I worthy? Did I sneak into the party, or have I earned the right to be at this party?
Yeah, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah,
you know,
I think. I mean, it's better than, you know, like if I had been a little more full of myself, if I had been a little bit more like, I am a brilliant artist, I probably would be much more successful, because the people that walk into the test rooms with that, they're thinking, these people are lucky to have me.
Yeah.
You know, like, whereas I'm like, I'm so lucky to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, but I don't know. I hope, I like to think that I'm able to put my head down on the pillow a little bit more easily at night, you know.
Man, just going through some of these here, I mean, my God, it's like, even diagnosis murder. I mean,
oh yeah.
How was, like, Dick Van Dyke? I'm sure you grew up on that.
Oh yeah. I actually didn't get to work with Dick Van Dyke on the show. I don't think I ever saw him, maybe for a very brief moment during that episode.
Yeah.
But just working on Dick Van Dyke's show, and again, that was my first network show that I ever did.
Oh, wow.
That I had done the commercials. I'd done a bunch of national commercials, and then I did the Young and the Restless, where I had to dance, and then Diagnosis Murder was my first swing at network TV, and it was thrilling and fantastic. And I remember when I did the first Coors Light beer commercial, the football one, I called my best friend from back in Ohio, and I said, bro, they had retired his football jersey at our school because he was the best wide receiver ever to come out of our high school, and they retired his jersey. And I'm like, send me your jersey. I'm gonna wear it on this commercial. And I became, it blew up back in North Canton, like North Canton boy does national beer, because every Sunday during NFL football, the tap the Rocky, and my commercial would play, and I remember the article, the articles in my hometown paper started out as a little paragraph, and then got to the point where I had, a few pages as with different pictures and stuff. And the best part of that was that it made my dad proud.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. That's all that it was about for me, man, was just making my dad smile and making my dad proud, and making my dad say, Eddie, man, I don't know how you did this, but I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. That's the ultimate goal, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if it's somebody like you hold in high regard, like you did him. You grow up your whole life just wanting them to be proud of you.
Yeah. Well, especially considering, like the fact that I was such a maniac when I was, when I was younger, and my dad, I put a few years on my old dad when I was a kid, and I believe that he kind of sent me off to college going, on a wing and a prayer, man, so the fact that I could, and I've eventually been able to go back to my aunt and uncle, my uncle who fired me. And I did a film that I introduced them. I invited them to come to the premiere, and before the film, I got to stand up and give a little speech, and I got to publicly acknowledge what had happened and apologize to my uncle publicly and thank him for the opportunity, and be able to show him that I had kind of overcome the things that were holding me back. And he does all our insurance now, and we have a great relationship. All right, easy.
Full circle kind of thing.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, man, my life has been a lot of those concentric circles. And
I have it was 95, the Coors Light, Tap the Rockies. Does that sound right?
Yeah. It's on YouTube.
Let me see if I can track this real quick, so people can hear this, or part of it anyway.
I'm number 29.
That is a total 90s beer commercial.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, for that audition, I remember we did our callbacks on a soundstage, a big soundstage. And so there were a lot of football players there. There were a lot of, and I played football my whole life too.
Yeah.
But the guys that were there were taking it all very, very seriously. Like they were warming up, and I just went in, and when it was my turn, I was doing all this, stuff that I would do on the playground with all my buddies,
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like I was playing the intramural championships. I was having a good time with my buddies in the backyard. Right.
Yeah.
And again, they hired me because I was, willing to just kind of show who I was.
Yeah.
You know,
Be yourself. Yeah.
And then when we got up to do the commercial, we were on a small green stage. It was very small and it was completely green because they had to green screen the Rocky Mountains into the interplay of the football.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really foreign. Like, okay, and they're like, okay, now pretend like you're playing football, and it wasn't going well. And I remember because it was so weird for all of us. And I can remember the director going, 29, do something, like, I guess I had been hired to be the wild card. Right.
Yeah.
So I, at one point I got the ball and I took my hat and put it backwards and I put the ball up like this. And then I did this like Grease Lightning thing, this John Travolta ripoff from Grease, go Grease Lightning, and they loved that. And that's what they ended up featuring in the commercial.
That kind of goes with it.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah,
I mean, well, you did something. I guess you took his advice. You did something.
Yeah. And they were like, okay, there. That's interesting. I don't, like, where did that come from? I don't know. But, again, it's always been, my willingness to free associate and it's kind of been, I live by the sword and I die by the sword in regard to the things I've been willing to say. Like, I've always been willing to step over the line when it comes to my comedy, or I've always been willing to, I've never been afraid to, like, be a grown man that still acts like a kid.
Yeah.
And it's served me. And then sometimes it hasn't served me, but like I never kind of went back on that,
Yeah.
It's harder now, because you're afraid that you're going to say the wrong thing and they're going to cancel you. And, like, I was at a convention up in Denver a couple weeks ago, and I was raised to say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, when I talk to people. And I would be like, yes, ma'am, sir, ma'am,
ain't that the craziest thing? Like, open a door for a lady. What do you think you're doing? I can open the door myself. Oh, okay. Right. I mean, that's where we're at. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that we can go back. I think that it's so twisted now that I don't know.
I'm going to keep on. I mean,
me too.
Like, I am who I am, and I believe I'm a pretty decent person, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And if they misinterpret what I say, that's on them, man.
Exactly.
Not on me, because I know where I'm coming from.
Exactly. Your own intentions of why you do what you do, no matter how small or how big. You know why you did it.
Exactly.
And you can lay your head down with that every night. Anybody gets in an uproar about this silly stuff, you're right. It's on them. It's on them. We can all make our own decisions, our own choices. And I just try to make the best ones that I know how to make, man. And that's all we can do. It's all we can do.
Exactly. People, it's like people take themselves way too seriously anymore, man. It's like, just relax, not everybody is out to get you.
Yeah.
I was feeling crappy. I was feeling crappy just yesterday. It was my birthday. It was the first birthday that I had celebrated without my father. I was feeling kind of blue. And then my wife and I went to get our pictures taken to renew our driver's license. And I've always made a habit of making weirdest faces for my driver's license.
Yeah.
And I told the lady, I was like, could you count to 3? Because I get really uncomfortable when I have my picture taken. So could you count to 3? So I went from having like this normal face and she counted 3, and then I made this really fucking weird face. And I went over and told Lynn, my wife, about it, and she started laughing, and we sat there and laughed. And I was like, I felt better.
Yeah.
Just from having a laugh, man.
Man.
And I'm just like, that's the key.
It is.
You know,
It is.
Man, that's gotta be the key.
It is. It's like laughter it can almost heal anything.
Yeah.
You know,
and I don't take myself so seriously, man.
Yeah.
You know, if people would just lighten up,
lighten up. Yeah. Exactly.
I know that's boiling it down to its, lowest common denominator. It's kind of maybe just like saying, Nancy Reagan's thing, just don't do it, or just say no.
Just say
right?
no. Yeah.
Okay, it's not quite that simple, but maybe it is.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it is. I think if you want it to be, it's as simple as you want it to be. You can. Me and my wife are always laughing at something. We send each other these TikTok videos, and especially stuff like people falling down. Like, I still laugh like I'm 5, and so does she. People falling down. There's something funny as hell about people falling down, and it's universal.
Never not be funny. It's like farting guys.
Yeah, it is.
Like, farts will always be funny to me.
That's just
that's just the way it is.
It is, man, and it's like, you just don't take yourself so seriously that you can't laugh at yourself. My grandmother, she's almost 81. She'll be 81 in like 2 weeks. And she's all time done silly kind of stuff. And she has always laughed at herself. And I think that is what's kept her
young.
Yeah. It's just kept her, just centered. Yeah. Even in the bad times and the bad health stuff that she's went through, she can still laugh at herself, man. That's kind of an inspiration to me.
Yeah.
Because my granddaddy couldn't do that.
Right.
He couldn't do that.
She was the balance for your grandpa, probably, because, she kept everything as light as she could to counteract his serious nature. Yeah.
Now he would play, with me, like chase me around the house, and he got a kick out of that. He was the kind of the patriarch at Christmas time, and loved having all the family together. She does too. Yeah. But he just lit up, but it's almost like, if you caught him off guard, he didn't know. He'd be really awkward. And he definitely wouldn't laugh at himself if he said something, messed something up. It's that kind of thing. But she always has, and I think that's important. Laugh at yourself. We're not perfect.
That's one of the things that I loved about Warehouse 13, which was my most successful show.
Sure.
Was. We found a way to mix sci-fi in with like real core family problems and dynamics, and at the same time we still laughed at ourselves. And we still and I think that's why people related to that show so much, because we, when they hired our boss to write the show, he said, look, I'm not a sci-fi guy. I don't know anything about sci-fi. What I do know about is family. So
wow.
if you surround me with sci-fi guys, I can be the core of this show. I can write the core, the family dynamic of this show. And then, we'll have the the sci-fi stuff all around it, and which was, brilliant, and which is why I think the show was so successful.
Yeah, that was just another pilot you had done,
Yep.
and it just that one happened to hit and stick.
It was like I think it was my 10th pilot.
Mm. Wow. And what a life changer. I mean, you're probably still doing Comic-Cons and stuff from that show.
I just got back from Liverpool. I was in the UK last weekend. And then I was in Denver the weekend before that. And before Warehouse 13, I didn't even know these things existed. I mean, I knew about, Trekkies or Trekkers, the Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that this show would provide for me the way that it has, not just monetarily, but emotionally.
Yeah.
I get to go and I get to give back to the people that have given me a career. And, I had the best compliment I've ever been paid in my entire life. I was at a convention years ago back. I think the show was still on the air. I had this young kid come up to me, and we were talking. He was a Marine Corps sniper, and I noticed his legs. He had shorts on, and as we were talking, I noticed his legs were really messed up, man. And we were talking, and he said that when he was in Afghanistan, he stepped over a remotely detonated IED. And, they had to, that was his alive day, they call it, right? It's the day that he should have been dead, but he ended up living. And he was like, yeah, man, he goes, I was in the hospital having surgeries for the next year and a half, never left the hospital.
Wow.
He goes, and Pete Latimer kept me alive. So the next day he showed back up at my table, and he's like, man, I want to give you something. And he tried to give me his Purple Heart.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, brother, thank you. I am honored, but that Purple Heart should go to your parents, or, you should keep that in the family. And he goes, it's okay, because I got another one, because I got blown up in Iraq too. And but he gave me one of his Purple Hearts. And it's just stuff like that. You think as an actor, it's like, what am I doing? What good am I doing for the world? Am I making a difference, or am I taking up space and air, Yeah. And you have an experience like that for me. That Purple Heart is up in our safe, and every year I try and reach out to him on his alive day and just say, hey man, just checking in, buddy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
God, that's amazing.
I've always been a big, like one of the things that my dad taught me along with my handshake was, to, show respect for our veterans. I mean, I was born on Memorial Day, so Memorial Day weekend. So it's always been important to me. And so to have someone who I respect their service so much have me be such an important part of his life, that helps me walk a little taller, and gets me through the day when I'm feeling like a piece of shit.
Yeah, that's I think that's a God thing for him too, for you to be on that show, and for it to have touched him at what he was going through in his life at that point, and on from there. I mean, that has to be, if he said the one thing, that got him through. I mean, I can't. Wow, that's something I guess you'd never expect to hear when you're filming these scenes.
No, I had no idea. But when I was up in Denver here just a couple weeks ago, there was a guy who he had been coming through during the weekend with his family, and I said hi to he and his kids a few times, and they came by, and then on the last day he came over by himself, and he came up to me and he goes, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you that you kept me from killing myself. I was going to kill myself." And he said, I just loved the spirit that you brought to this character. And I mean, what do you do with that information, man? Like, I just hugged this guy and I said, I love you, man.
Yeah.
And, stay on the planet,
That's really something. Really something.
Yeah. Every once in a while, the ball kicker that is this business will reward me with something that says, don't give up yet. Don't let go yet. Keep.
Wow. What are you working on now? I mean, I know you said you were directing the thing at that Dean.
Yeah. I'm working on trying to get my 17 and 16-year-old kids through high school right now. Like I said, I'm still getting auditions here and there. And, like Rick says to me, he's like, "Eddie, the town still loves you. It's just they are under edicts that make it so that even though they still love you and love who you are, they are being made to hire a certain way. So, but as long as I get the auditions, I'll keep going to them, And Rick and I have an understanding. It's like, okay, when the day comes, you'll tell me, right? And he goes, "Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell you when it's time, when you should, think about other stuff." I mean, a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic, I was in a place where I couldn't sleep at night. I knew I had to bring in some kind of money. Our money was just going out. And I was like, what can I do? First of all, who's going to hire me, and to do what after 25 years? Like, what am I qualified to do? What can I do that I can, my boys will feel proud of me, and that I can have some pride, and my wife will be proud of me. So I decided to apply to LAPD.
Oh, wow.
And I went downtown and sat in a room with about 120, 19 and 20-year-olds. A lot of them had just come out of the military. And I mean, I was 53 at the time, but I brought my running shoes and my workout stuff. And because of my wrestling background, I've always stayed in shape. I've always been a gym rat.
Yeah.
I went out, took the physical fitness qualifier, finished in the top of the class, took the personality test, got a 97 on that. Excuse me. And then in the background check, they asked if I had ever done drugs. I mean, they were like, "Have you ever done drugs? If so, what was the date? And how many times did you do those drugs?" And I was looking at these going,
womp, womp, womp.
I basically said, yes, I did drugs from 1982 until 1999. And I went to check my profile on the site a few days later, and it was gone. And then I got a letter from them saying that I had been released.
You were honest.
Yeah.
That's what you get for being honest, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, rigorous honesty in my life is what I try and practice. So
that's a good thing to practice.
Yeah.
Man, we could talk forever, but I'll let you rest for a little while, I guess, and just stay on the path, man. You know, to finding those answers, and to your dad. You know, he's going to be reaching out through different ways. I guarantee you. You will, man.
I need that. I need to hear stuff like that from people like you, Andrew. I appreciate it, man. This has been a pleasure for me. And thank you again. And, you know, bro, you have my number. So, you know, please reach out anytime if you need a favor or whatever. And if you're ever out this way, man, I'd love to bring the wife down to hear you play.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. If I ever make it back out to, California, I don't, nobody's really calling right now. You know, the touring since COVID, the touring thing for me has been basically almost non-existent. But you know, I'm still writing, I'm still staying out there, and I've been focusing a lot of time on doing this, and I'm enjoying this, man. I started this during COVID because it just kind of kept me sane.
Right.
Some of the friends that I had met in the business, it kind of gave us a way to stay connected while we was all sitting home. And so it's a good thing. It's turned into a thing now where I'm branching out with it. So,
well, if I ever do my own podcast, I would hope that you'd come on and be a guest on my show.
I'll be your first one, man.
Awesome.
Be your first one. And,
awesome.
And now before we go, we got to tell, because this is great. We got you know what I'm going to say. Yeah, you already know what I'm going to say. So before we go on the air, you know, he's saying that he'll forgive me for being from Alabama and, you know, blah, blah, yada, yada. So, and then he says that some of him and his wife's best friends are from Alabama. And I said, oh, really? What part? And he hollers at his wife and asks what part. And she says, Greenbow. Okay. And then he, with a very serious face, believing they were from Greenbow, Alabama, tells me Greenbow. And I'm sitting here a minute and I said, isn't that the Forrest Gump thing? He's like, oh yeah.
Well, life's like a box of chocolates.
Yeah. And I guess that set us up for the whole thing. Maybe maybe it's your wife's fault. Maybe that started the whole thing right there.
Yeah, she's trying to set me up.
What was funny is you didn't even catch it.
No idea.
And it took me a minute, but that's great. Oh, that's great. All right, man. Well, yeah, you got my number too. So same with you, you know.
I will. I definitely will.
All right. We've been talking to Eddie McClintock today. Appreciate y'all tuning in once again, to Picking It Out, and we'll see you next time.